All right, everybody. It is Tuesday night, and for the last 3.5 years, we've been hosting conversations with Commodores, and we've got a special one tonight, number 89, coming out of California, Sean Dowling. Sean, thank you so much for making some time for us tonight. It's good to see you. Nice to meet you. Looking forward to a great conversation.
Very happy to be here. Very honored. There have been definitely some better ones that have come before me. So I'll do my best and not let imposter syndrome take the wheel, and let their legacies be represented well.
For those of you who don't know Sean or his story, you're not going to hear a lot of braggadocious coming out of this man. He's a very hard worker. We need to really, first and foremost, thank you, Sean, for your service the last 6+ years in the Marines. I know that you have served honorably, and it has been something that you have taken very seriously. And I know you're getting out in the next few months or whatever that target date is, but I want to make sure to thank you for your service and all your hard work.
Thank you very much. I very much enjoyed my journey, and I'm very, very humbled to have served such a grateful nation.
Well, let's back up, because you're not the first member by far in your family, in your immediate family, who served our country. Coming out of Fallbrook, California, I know that your parents and maybe other family members have all been service members. Share a little bit about your origin story, if you will, Sean.
So it's always weird here in Fallbrook, California. I think about people hear it when I talk. I don't talk like I'm from California, but for someone who does, I spent a lot of time there. My dad was a Marine, retired after 34 years. So he did a very long time. We moved a bunch. So my origin story doesn't really have an associated geography, which is kind of funny. Every time I hear Fallbrook, California, I'm just like, I lived there. I loved it, but it just never feels like home, because I have not been back, I don't think, since my parents moved away from there. But
that's what the Vandy bio has assigned as your home origin.
My nameplate over my locker said Fallbrook too. So got to represent for Fallbrook, avocado capital of the world. Great guacamole if you're ever passing through northern San Diego County. It'll be a place I'd recommend to stop, but otherwise it's not much of a town. But yeah, so my father, career Marine, his father was a career Marine as well. My mother was also a career Marine. She's a JAG, so she's also an attorney. But my father was an infantry officer. My grandfather was an infantry officer and a special operations officer before that was really a thing in Vietnam, and definitely inspired me, and kind of showed me what an incredible honor it was to lead Marines, and like the huge burden that is as well. So I left Vanderbilt, went to officer candidate school, went to the basic school, and earned the opportunity to try to become an infantry officer. And went to the infantry officer course for 3 months and became an infantry officer. And I led Marines on 2 deployments out of California, ironically enough, and then became a Marine Raider, special operations officer. And the whole time in my military service, I've really jumped back into skills developed on the football field. So been all around the world multiple times, and I feel like when my life has been the most hectic, scary, resource deprived, sleep deprived, you name it, it's a skill set developed out behind McGugin on the practice field or in the weight room there that kind of rose to the top through the chafe, and kind of pointed me and the guys I was leading in whatever direction. I like to think it was the right direction, but a direction away from adversity, stress, bad things happening.
Oh, Sean, so many questions. Where do I even start? I know that coming out of high school, you had committed to UCLA, but that was just not the place for you. What about the military academies? Did any of those become options or considerations to play ball and go to as an undergraduate in one of those?
Yeah. Early on in my recruitment, I think a lot of guys don't know what schools are gonna, what caliber of football they're gonna be capable of playing. And for people who really love the game, it's just where can I go to play football and not have to pay for school? Is the original question. And then opportunities arise where you could play football in the Southeastern Conference, or other conferences, frankly. But Vanderbilt was the only school from the Southeastern Conference that ever talked to me, and I was enamored from the first phone call with Coach Herb Hand and Ricky Ronnie. So yeah, I mean, they're definitely an option. And several times while I was at Vanderbilt, I had thought about it because I knew that the Marine Corps was a goal, and my talent level was not that of an NFL player. So I thought about it, but I quite simply loved Vanderbilt, my friends, my teammates too much to ever really consider that. And in high school, it just kind of went on the back burner pretty quickly.
Saying no to Coach Hand, I think, would be a hard thing for most recruits anyway.
Yeah, he reached through that phone, and I would never do that. Great guy. Still in contact with him today. That's the type of man he is. Like he's very much like a father figure role model to every single guy that he ever coached. Texts you every single year on your birthday, no matter what. Yeah, it's a great guy.
It's one of those relationships that we have as athletes with our coaches, whether it's your head coach, position coach, whoever it is, that are just kind of a special bond. And hopefully it's a good bond. I'm not saying every relationship with your coach or a coach is a good thing, because we may feel we want to be playing more, but the coach says, not today, Bernard. But no, that's great to hear about your relationship and friendship with Coach Hand. Let's back up just a little bit more. Sean, did you play other sports growing up? Did you have did you have sports that you thought maybe you were excelling in more than football, or was football really your passion and your best sport?
Yeah, so like I said, my dad, career Marine, moved around a bunch. Sports were like kind of the vehicle my brother and I used to make friends and like gain a community, despite not always like being in the same place. So sports were and are to this day still a big part of my life. And I played basketball, baseball, and my freshman year I threw in track, and I really hated it, but refused to quit. So sports, my high school experience and even previous to that were very much defined by sports. My wife is an Olympian. She's a gold and silver medalist. So like I married an athlete too.
Well, I'm glad that you have brought up your Olympian, your ties. Share a little bit about that competitive fire that, to the extent that you want to, that just to kind of brought you guys together, that gives you a common bond. Because I don't care what sport you've played, I don't care what your gender is. If you have that athletic fire in you, it kind of never goes away. And it could be playing paper football at the kitchen table, or who's going to drive the car the fastest, or whatever it is. Does that exist right now in your relationship at times?
Yeah, very much. We met when I was in San Diego shoes training, and I was stationed there. And like the surfing in California is very hard to beat, and we picked it up together, and like essentially taught each other how to do it. So the ocean's a huge part of our life, and going out and like doing physical activity as it pertains to the ocean is still a huge part of our life, just on the Atlantic coast. But to compare myself to the caliber of athlete that she is a disservice to her in a lot of ways. I'm a special operator. I'm like assessed and selected in the top, like smallest percentile, the smallest percentile, the smallest percentile. Professional tough guy almost, like surrounded by tough guys all day long, as far back as I can remember. And I always like erroneously thought someone I know, in my shoes, someone in my community is the toughest person I'll ever meet. But
oh, here it is. But
like all the tough guys combined in the world, like really just don't compare to the type of competitive capacity, intensity, and just drive that my wife has, Kathleen. It's incredible as an athlete. Like I could see it and understand it, but I can see it and understand it enough that I just don't have it. She has it, and she can turn it off too, which is the even cooler part. She turns into this very normal, girl from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, when she's not this human torpedo in a pool. So
Well, I was going to ask you, which Olympics was she in?
the 16 Olympics
And what was her
in
sport?
Rio.
What did she medal in?
She's a swimmer.
Mhm. Well, I know one space you're not going to compete with her in, if you're a smart man. But
Yeah. The joke is I still have to, I had to swim for my job very
Mhm.
like more than, oh, not as much as a professional swimmer, but as far as jobs go, I'm on the highest end. So it's like her ability to coach me is like a Ferrari, her coaching a lawnmower, me, how to be a race car.
Guys, I've got Sean Dowling. He played briefly. He came in on Franklin, but played for Mason. And he may be a very finely tuned athlete who just ran 10 miles recently on a trip back to visit Nashville and campus. But he is married to an Olympian. End of story. We're going to move on to the next topic. But before we do, Sean, we got a bunch of Commodores in the house. We got John L. Thomas. We got
John L.
Athletics Job. We got Dwayne Jones, Tyler Unzicker, and a whole bunch of others have already scrolled through. I'm sorry, Sean, as we were talking, I didn't want to interrupt you, but we've got a bunch of folks in the house tonight for Sean Dowling. Awesome.
Thanks for coming
Sean,
out, folks.
you're in Wilmington these days. And as we said earlier, you're getting out of the military soon. But tell us, I know you're working with Deloitte, but what are you doing on a day-to-day basis, and what is in your future professionally?
I am a fellow on the GPS, the government side of Deloitte Consulting. Not affiliated with anything military. Every time I tell someone that, they assume I'm doing something that I would have to use my like TS clearance on. But I'm a fellow on a team right now, essentially like streamlining the Medicare Medicaid application for a state government. So it's very much enjoyable. I'll say that. Work with great people, and Deloitte right now is hybrid, but they're almost fully remote in terms of like going in the office sort of thing. And because I'm a fellow and I'm still actually in the U.S. Marine Corps, I'm not like the full spectrum of the travel associated. Really, that hasn't applied to me. So I've been able to be home. I took a trip last week that I would previously have to have submitted leave for, that I was just able to like work from 9 to 5 and be present, which is really nice. Like reintegrating into a normal life routine has been the most pleasant part of transition. Not to say that transitioning hasn't been easy, but it has been nice.
Did it dawn on you, or did you have a conversation with Kathleen? Hey, we can just go. I don't have to tell anybody. I don't have to submit something. We could just
It was
leave.
actually her telling me that. She said, like, you don't have to tell anybody. You could just go. And I was like, what? So, it quite literally, I've been like emailing my boss, who is another grown man, like, hey, sir, I'm headed out of town this weekend. My special liberties in your inbox for your approval for the past almost 7 years. So it's the level of autonomy is something I've gotten used to quickly, which is nice. And my wife has obviously loved it as well.
Oh, she probably gives you a hard time from time to time with you trying to transition back into the real world. But
Yeah.
Sean, I know there's so many, and John L says to tell you hello, Sean.
I know.
Sean, I know there's so many comparisons that we can talk about with playing college sports and being in the military. But what I want to talk about is your professional career right now, and how are you able to I guess utilize some of those skills, some of the memories of playing sports, of being in the military, now into this new phase of your life, which now will be, sports were the last 15 to 20 years of your life. The military was half a dozen to 7 years actively, but now you've got the next 40 to 50 years to figure all that part out. Have you started pulling upon those experiences from those other past parts of your life with your profession at this point?
Yeah, very much so. There's a lot of soft skill development in athletics, which I think everyone is in agreement that it makes a better human being. Like I could see my Marines who played sports and who didn't, just based off their ability to interact with each other. So me personally, I think there is a wealth of soft skills developed on the football field and while I was in uniform that I rely on every day. And they're more of just kind of like how I act, vice it, like developed skill, like being proficient with Java or a coding language. It's just essentially it's part of who I am, and it's kind of the nice thing about sports and doing a really, really hard, demanding job. They kind of shape you into a person that prioritizes the important things. And don't want to hype myself up, but I do feel a competitive advantage over a lot of people who haven't had to deal with the things that I have as a Marine and a Vanderbilt football player and student.
You know, when we all come to Vanderbilt as 17 or 18-year-old freshmen, we leave the comforts of home. We leave the cocoon, if you will, and you're establishing your identity. You're going through, or we all go through, some levels of maturity, some quicker than others. And where I want to go with this is when you showed up in January of 2013, just after Coach Franklin's bowl team, and you hit the ground running, was it what you expected to begin with? Was it a letdown? Was it more than you expected? Because give us a little bit of your impression as this bright-eyed kid coming with all these ideas. I'm sure that we all have. You show up and it's January and these guys have just finished a long season, but you're ready to go. So how did that play out for you?
Yeah, so like in January in the Franklin days, there used to be this thing called winter workouts. And I know if John L's still on, he knows exactly what he's talking about, and probably like a little cold sweat goes down the back of his spine. I've done like quantifiably like the hardest things in the world training in the United States Marine Corps and through the Special Operations Command. And I texted Coach Franklin probably like 6 months ago. I told him like, I have never done anything harder than a February winter workout. Just because like 17-year-old Sean Dowling thought that they were the hardest thing in the world. I'd get up at like 4:30, walk across campus when it was cold and just do something that like quite honestly sucked with people who are in way better shape than me and stronger than me. So it was like a very humbling experience that I think, like if I look back on my life, I would say my life started there. Like I started to figure out life there. I had amazing role models to look up to, and like the players there, Jordan Matthews and Wes Johnson, and coaches like James Franklin and Herb Hand and Ricky Ronnie, all were like just men that I think in a lot of our minds were almost mythical in their capacity to say like hilarious things while like beating you down and saying nice things to you while they're bringing you up. And it's just like this convoluted thing that like mythical leaders almost. But to answer your question, it was incredible leaving high school, going to Vanderbilt and competing with them. It was awesome. I was extremely underweight playing offensive line. I gained like 40 pounds in that time from January to May, and then another 30 in the next like probably 6 months. So my like mission was to just get big enough to like essentially develop power. And it was a dynamic process. When I showed up, people thought I was a linebacker. I was pretty worked up about that. I was like, nah, man, I'm an offensive lineman. So it was an uphill battle. It was very difficult. I'll say that.
I bet when you went home that spring or that summer after the semester, people probably didn't recognize you if you had gained all that weight.
They did not. Yeah. So like my classmates were still in high school, and I went from like a 34 waist to 34, 36 waist to like a 42. Yeah. My shoe size got bigger too, because like my arch shrunk a little bit.
Everything, you just ballooned up.
Yeah.
John L said that those winter workouts were a breeze. He doesn't know.
That might be the first lie I've ever heard you say, man.
No, he said 100% agree. Those winter workouts were tough. Sean, when we leave again the cocoon of home, for most guys, they're the big fish in the little pond because you're the cream of the crop in your high school from an athletic standpoint, or maybe your community, your city. But everybody is that way coming out of high school and getting to Power Five, SEC, best conference for football. Going through that spring, do you have any memories of kind of a welcome to the SEC moment? I got a ways to go, or welcome to the SEC. Hey, I think I can do some things here. Did you have any of those kind of moments?
Yeah, I think my first snap was against Ladarius Banks, and I was supposed to cut him off essentially. Like I was attempting to reach him, and he like was so much faster off the ball than me that I like probably touched his foot by the time he was like interfering with the play. And it didn't get much better for the rest of the spring. I was like, as everyone was getting better, I was like meeting them but not exceeding them. So it was an incredible learning experience that really helped me in camp, but ironically still redshirted, gained weight, and I mean, it was like the most dynamic learning curve I think I've ever been exposed to. And in the context of my life, I think that's saying a lot considering the amount of training I've done in the Marine Corps, and like the experiences associated with that. So.
Oh, no doubt at all, Sean. Now, when did Franklin go out and Mason come in during your time?
It was almost exactly a year from the day I showed up. So it was January of 2014. We just finished playing in Birmingham at the bowl game, got back. Rumor mill was pumping. It was USC, it was Texas. And eventually we were pretty sure it was Penn State. Had a team meeting somewhere around the first week of class that we were back. Let us know that he was going to Penn State. And I went out of town with a couple guys to Atlanta for like a concert. And Coach Mason came and met the team like no less than a week later, I think. It was a really strange period, the in-between, because our coaches were gone. The rigidity, the schedule of our life that we like had developed and understood and really gotten, like the anticipation of winter workouts we're building because they're coming, and all of a sudden it was gone. So it was one of the weird, like vaporous, ambiguous times in my life. And when Coach Mason showed up, his staff kind of got us on a schedule that kind of mirrored in a lot of ways and didn't mirror what Coach Franklin had us doing.
You know, Sean, I've talked to many of your teammates of different years who were still on the squad when Franklin left. And about 2/3 of them had no idea. They were upset. They had bonded with Coach Franklin. They were really looking forward to time with him and playing for him. And then the other guys were, yeah, whether this is true or not, this is just what they've said. We didn't think he was going to stay. We knew that there were, the rumors circulating, he's probably going back to Penn State or going to Penn State, his home state. And so they were nonplussed. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but do you remember the vibe, I guess, amongst your teammates, maybe your core group of friends, maybe the linemen? What was the vibe, one or the other, or was it kind of a mixed bag?
It was like for a young man, I was 18. It was a very strange time to be alive. Like the power structure, the capacity to like almost like your justice system was just sucked out of the world. It was very strange. I'll say that I didn't really see it coming, like didn't really anticipate it. Kind of just thought the rumors were interesting. But the thing that I remember focusing on was I did not want Coach Hand to leave. I really wanted him to stay and be the head coach.
A lot of people thought that.
Yeah, wanted that. Yeah, I'm sure. And
but also what happened, and I don't know how many off the active roster, and I'm not trying to get too deep in the woods, but a lot of recruits flipped.
Yeah,
so the fan base was not happy because this was a new thing for the fan base to experience. It's not often that our coaches leave to go to bigger programs and take recruits with them. They usually get terminated from their employment or they retire. So it really sparked a lot of passion, a lot of emotion that wasn't necessarily positive at that time. But I didn't mean to cut you off, bud.
No, yeah, I think you're saying the same thing. That I think you're very much have a very good pulse on it. Like it was to have the recruits leave. It felt very much like a betrayal. As a grown man, I understand like that college football is very much a business, but beyond that, it just like the severing of a relationship that you have invested a lot of yourself into, and reciprocally, like they have invested a lot into you. Is really really hard to deal with, and for young
It
men,
was a breakup. It was a
yeah, it's very
one-sided
much, yeah.
breakup.
For young men
Sean,
that haven't experienced that, it's like
yeah,
it's a very dynamic process, and very
it
very
is.
strange. It was honestly strange. I'll say that it was like the semester
Mhm.
afterwards that like you eventually like get into a routine, but the fact that the guys that like you are there like told you to come here to play for them weren't there anymore. It was very strange.
Yeah. Could you imagine playing now with all the transfer portal and all that stuff?
Yeah, I'm not really caught up on it, to be honest, in the way, in like the semantics, like I would have been if it affected my life. But it is not the same. It is not the same landscape that I
No, it's free
or you plan, to
agency.
say the least.
It's college free agency. But Sean, we got some
Yeah,
more Commodores in the house. We got Gary Veach, George
Gary,
White,
how you
Brian
doing?
Josie. Thank you guys for coming tonight. Got, of course, Sean Dowling. He's in North Carolina right now. The man's been on both coasts and around the world twice, if not more, during his time. All right, you get into Mason. You get into that time period. It's completely different vibe from what I've been told. It's a different style. It's a different interpersonal relationships and dynamics. Franklin, and tell me if I'm off base here, more dynamic, emotional. This is Coach Mason's first head coaching job. He comes out of Stanford where he's the DC. And at times, and this is not a criticism, this is just observation, deer in the headlights look at times, but that's just coming from me. I want to know from within the program, Sean, how long you got that first spring with Coach? For you personally, were you still on the O line? Had they moved you out to tight end at this point? What was going on with you?
Still an offensive lineman, was in the process of like competing to start, and eventually the spring was awesome. We I was like on the freshman lifting track, which was like scout team and lift as much weights as heavily as possible sort of situation. So I was like 18 and I had like double knee tendonitis. I had a torn labrum in my shoulder that was not healing. So it was when Bill Hewen came in, the strength coach, there was a lot of faults like in terms of like loss of power generation and stuff. But I will say the plus for me on just the personal side is I was able to like get healthy again. But in terms of like the personality dichotomies between Coach Mason and Coach Franklin, I think is like one of the like he's a crafter. He's emotional. He can speak to you. He can be the biggest man in the room and speak to you one on one. And there's beauty in that as a leader. He was able to like generate incredible motivation, understanding, focus, respect, and our team immensely benefited from that as a result. There was incredible focus, energy to match his expectations of us. And I think
And the
he brought
records
the best out of all of us all the time, every single day.
and the records reflected that.
Yeah, very much so.
The
It's hard for
scoreboard
anybody.
showed.
I couldn't do it to come in and replace a guy with that much talent, dynamic capabilities, capacity, understanding. But so Coach Mason had his job out for him. But in terms of football knowledge, I've never met someone who could just like understand football in a way that is beyond my understanding. In the same way, like Kathleen as an Olympian is beyond my capacity to understand toughness. Like Coach Mason could catch a single play of a game of opponent film and probably develop an entire game plan off of it, just because like the data points just clicked in his head. And I learned a lot as a leader from him in terms of doing the right thing, doing the wrong thing, and the staff. Like Jason Grooms was the director of player personnel, chief of staff, and someone I think every single player that went through that program immensely respected. And our, like, when we did well, I would say it was a lot because Jason Grooms was burning the midnight oil, making sure people were there, making sure money was there, working with Candace behind the scenes to make things happen for Vandy football.
You know, from Coach Mason to me was a kind of a defensive savant.
Yeah, brilliant.
He just knew that. The coach I played for, Watson Brown, was an offensive savant. But, and not to be critical of both of those men, but it doesn't necessarily equate to the best head coaching abilities. My question for you, Sean, from the years that you played under Mason, if he's more focused on the defense, who was, I guess, the go-to from a coaching standpoint on the offense, who you guys relied upon?
We struggled in 2014. And the record indicates it. But when he brought in Andy Ludwig, who is another savant in terms of offensive football, I think our capabilities as a team obviously rose. But what was missing the entire time from our program was someone who could kind of crawl inside the human spirit of each of the players and bring them up to the level that they had to be at, to the level of focus, intensity. And there were a lot of really great guys showing up on staff, making that happen. But as you can see, there's inconsistent play across every position group. And the fact, like, programs that have a James Franklin and then don't aren't always going to look different, because what Coach Franklin brings to a program is exactly what I said. So yeah. In terms of savantry, I think that for every addition that a human has in terms of capabilities, it's subtracted somewhere else. I could speak on mine, but everyone has them. And I think that's not, it is unique to humans everywhere. Like I could give tons of examples from my own life, but I'll save putting those out there on the internet.
Well, I was going to say, from a standpoint of being in the military and then now professionally, certainly there are those individuals who are head coaches, if you will, your head coaches, your leaders, the people who you're taking orders from or trying to perform your best from. And I don't know if there's a good comparisons here. It's just the only one that I can kind of make. But did you find yourself, or have you found yourself, whether it's in the military or now with Deloitte, falling into kind of that dynamic, head coach and player, Marine and superior, whatever the dynamics are? Did you find yourself in those situations?
Yeah. So example would be like when a personality, like a human, just a superior human being with the capacity to like lead in the same way that James Franklin does, falls into a leadership position, like a battalion commander or a company commander, those units are so much better because of the person leading them. And the Marine Corps is full of humans, and like we promote people who are very, very good at a job into a job that they might not always be good at. And the people who like James Franklin are savants at leading people, those units, despite like their capabilities, they they might not be the best at tactics, at troop leading procedures, at like the very basics. But if you can lead people and empower them in any situation, their capacity to do anything is remarkable. Like you can ask a group of Marines to do anything. It just really depends on who's asking them, and they will figure it out.
You led me, there's another component of this, or another dynamic of this that I haven't even touched on, and that's the academics portion of this, the academic experience. And I guess, did you have connections like that in the academic world at Vanderbilt as well? We all know that Vanderbilt is challenging regardless of your course of study or your major, but did you find that success as well, or excuse me, that dynamic as well?
Yeah. So being an athlete, like a big 300-pound, 6'5", 6'6" person in sweatpants, like you don't blend in at Vanderbilt, but like the value of a Vanderbilt education is one, like the fact that it's an outstanding education, but two, like the regular non-athletic students that go there, the brilliant people that like make the school essentially renowned for it. So it was very much from like coaches to players, like make friends with the regular students because they are one, way smarter than you, way cooler than you, but like knowing them will help shape the trajectory of life in a much better way. And like studying with a guy who got a 36 ACT is way better than studying with your teammate who like did not, quite frankly. So it's quite easy to make friends at Vanderbilt. I would say like best student body support in terms of support and understanding and just desire to be friendly in the nation. But I never went to undergrad anywhere else, so that would be completely biased.
Well, from a physicality standpoint, you didn't exactly blend with the average undergraduate
Yeah.
student there, but did you find yourself making friends? Did you have a network of friends who or classmates who you hung around with outside of football? And the reason why I ask that is way too many of our experiences are sitting over there, or not sitting, but largely concentrated to just Neely Drive, to Magoogan.
Yeah.
And we don't take advantage of those networks, those friendships that you could be making. Did you allow yourself, were you able to make those connections?
It was very much encouraged to like befriend and encourage and like do things outside of football from both Coach Mason and Coach Franklin. And yes, while we were very busy, I have countless friends like on LinkedIn, and I have a Facebook that I don't use very frequently, but like I when I knew that I was getting out of the Marine Corps, like the first people I texted were obviously like my very close group of friends from Vanderbilt, but like the industry leaders that were my classmates at Vanier, the people that I like sat down, had Zoom calls with, had coffee with, gone golfing with, to talk about what's next for me, because quite frankly, they know like that they're the ones doing it. And not to like bring down my teammates who are also like immensely successful and doing countless other things with their lives, but like my transition out of the military has been marked by a lot more success than otherwise, because I know and I have a network of people that like are professionally very successful and have been able to help me figure it out. Like all I've ever wanted to do is leave Marines, gotten to do that, and like having people to fall back on to see what's next for me and point me in the right direction has been more beneficial than I think I was ever aware of when I was just hanging out with a guy because he likes San Diego Padres baseball.
Nothing wrong with that, but you're just getting back started into your professional career post-military, which you're not even out yet. But who knows what is in store 6 months from now or 6 years from now? I know, Sean, I keep jumping around, but it's all so interconnected. But what I really want to talk about now is that transition from being on the O line to being number 89 to being a TE. What was that like? How did that come about? Did anybody know you had any abilities to catch a football at that point?
I think the people that know me were like, "How is this guy tight end?" And I would probably say the same way. I transitioned from the O line kind of just like a heavy, like the extra guy in short yardage situations, and ended up being relatively successful at it. Enough so that I was able to transition almost full time 2015, like in the intermediate year 2014 and 2015, and finished my senior year as a full-blooded tight end. I think I was like 265, 270 pounds.
Well, I was going to ask you, what was your highest weight when you were on the line?
My highest weigh-in ever was 304 pounds with Coach Dwight Galt.
Seriously,
My
you got
target
over
weight for
3?
that was 305, and I chugged a bunch of water beforehand. So like I did weigh in at 304, but I was probably in the high 290s. It was never like a pleasant experience to fail a weigh-in, so it was always in everyone's best interest, which is kind of like you bite yourself in the butt. Like you make one weigh-in because you drank a bunch of water, and then next week you have to make up for that and then chug a bunch of water because it's unrealistic. So
And so you get down to two in the 260s to play tight end. And we're going to stay with football, but what was your weight for the most part when you were in the military? What did it then get to?
Yeah, so after my senior year at the Camping World Bowl in Shreveport, Camping World Independence Bowl, I was probably like 265 of that game, and I probably lost about 10 pounds a month or so until May when I went to the officer candidate school. A lot of people ask me about my weight loss journey. I just like, I was kind of like an unwilling fat person. So I wouldn't say there was ever a journey. I just like stopped eating cookies, at McGugin at night, and I ran a ton. I was not very talented at that. Like Marine officers have to be relatively proficient runners, so I ran a bunch. My teammates would make fun of me when they see me running around campus. So it was not the hardest thing in the world. I enjoy it. I still run to this day. I enjoy swimming, running, biking, lifting weights, working out with my wife. So it very much fit into my life, and it was not a particularly difficult process. I have some compatriots at work that were like offensive linemen at the Naval Academy that aggressively had to do it because their metabolism wasn't as good, and their experiences and their review on that would be much different. They would say that was the worst semester of their life. Didn't touch a carb, ate like a couple walnuts or almonds in a day, but mine was not like that.
Sounds miserable for them, but I want to talk about mental discipline. And at different times of a person's life, their ability to be mentally tough or mentally disciplined to stay on task or to complete the task can come and go depending on whatever factors are going on in their life, their maturity, their stage in life. And here's where I have to assume, because I've never been in the military. I certainly respect, honor, and admire for what you have done and so many others. But share a little bit about mental toughness, mental discipline, playing college football, then being in the military, and how do you maintain it now as you're about to hit full-time civilian life?
I think being truly a mentally tough person, you have to be aware of the things that affect your toughness and your drive. So, like for example, in my in training that I've done and training that the SEALs do, it's like extreme sleep deprivation. So you can understand like the stages your body goes through at about 5 days of sleep deprivation. You hallucinate, you make very, very poor decisions. But when that happens to you in real life and you are executing a mission profile that exceeds 48 hours and you haven't slept, you understand the things that are affecting your concentration. And being able to manage that list of things that affect your understanding, your situational awareness, your grit, like just the desire to put and mastering them and racking and stacking them, is something that is my strategy to be mentally tough. I think college football was very much a first step in that, prioritizing things that I want in my life, understanding the things that deplete from what I want and take from what I want. And I think it was really easy application in the Marine Corps. Everything I did in the Marine Corps progressively got harder. And as a result, I picked up more things and added them to my figurative bag that I could use to be a master of myself in terms of discipline, focus, drive, leadership, understanding, servant leadership, you name it.
Are you as tough on yourself now as you were, say, as an 18, 19-year-old football player in college?
I think I'm a little more tough, which is something I'm like working through is the level of intensity that I've had to apply to my life has dominated my stream of consciousness for the past 6 years, because quite frankly, I did a very serious job. And transitioning out of the Marine Corps, I've been able to take the pedal off the gas per se in some areas of my life that have enabled me to kind of like visit more comfort. And it's been a nice transition in that sense, to lose lose intensity and replace it with
Well,
like surfing with your wife.
that's what I was gonna ask you. Are you allowing yourself to goof off every once in a while, to just enjoy whatever it is, as goofy as it may be,
Yeah.
but just to enjoy it, just because it's the fact that you're enjoying it?
It has been it's been hard losing a community and a tribe.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
being a Raider on a team is incredibly difficult. But additionally, prioritizing my wife and my family has been something that I also feel like, which is the reason I am getting out.
Well, sure.
It's giving up a tribe to very much like take the place I want and crave. Like when I go out of town, I miss my wife, and I am sacrificing time that I could spend with her to make sure that my guys are ready to go, that we're safe, that to essentially make sure they all come home, is a sacrifice I was happy to make, but there's a time limit associated with that. And I'm glad that I'm at the point in my life where I can transition from that and put my family first. I think that's kind of like the answer a lot of guys give when they get out of the military. But for me, it very much is that I have been gone for pretty much 6 years, and it's time that I put my friends, primarily my family and my friends, first.
Well, I know that they appreciate that, and will do so going forward more and more. Sean, we've got just a couple more minutes, and I appreciate your time tonight. It's really been a fascinating conversation to hear about your journey. What makes you proud to have been a Vanderbilt Commodore?
I think we left the program in a good place. I came at a transition time, and my teammates and I were able to build something that didn't necessarily last, but I think that Coach Lee and staff are able to rekindle. I left after our bowl game against NC State. I was proud of where the program was going, and I watched it kind of putter into something that I was not very proud of. And to see Coach Lee come in this year, be a Vanderbilt guy, and honestly, like kick some ass, it has made me incredibly proud, and I am very excited to see where that goes.
Well, there's two games I want you to make sure that are on your schedule if you haven't looked. September 9th, the Commodores play at Wake Forest, not too far from you.
I will be there. My wife's from Winston-Salem, so we will be there.
Very good. And then the following week, I'm challenging you to grab some of your teammates and meet us in Vegas for that fun few days. So I hope that you'll be able to put those on your calendar coming up.
I will. Wake Forest will definitely be there. Are you going to Wake Forest?
I'm not going to be able to go to the Wake Forest
Okay.
game, but I'm going to be at a few of the home games, and I'm definitely going to be at the Vegas game. Sean, I could keep you here for the next 3 hours and still need 3 more hours, but I'm going to be respectful of your time. I sure appreciate you sharing your journey, your story. And like I said earlier, from the bottom of my heart, on behalf of all of our Commodores, thank you for your service. We can't, there's no way to properly thank you other than just to say it at this point, and to be your friend. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate making a friend tonight, Bernard. Thank you for all you do. I think that like the ability to just have a conversation about your time at Vanderbilt is something that everyone craves, because it exists in a place above almost everything in our hearts. Like the guys who walk away from Jess Neely Drive love that place. So thank you for allowing me to do that. This has been the highlight of my week. I'm happy to report that while I'm an admitted Duke MBA student, I have not encumbered myself with anything but black and gold, and I will not be doing that either.
We thank you. And I do have one last question. Do you and your wife compete together as a team in competitions like triathlons and things like that? Have you been together as a team, or have you competed against each other in those?
We do both. We go to the same gym together. And every time we work out is a competition, but when it comes to other people, we will team up on anybody. It is you're not splitting us up, because I need her on my team, because her hand-eye coordination is surprisingly a little bit better than mine. I think I've been knocked around in the head too much and had a couple TBIs in the Marine Corps. So we've been playing pickleball. Honestly, a lot of people have been hating on pickleball, but we picked it up. We picked up tennis on our honeymoon. So if you guys are a couple and want to play us, we're out here in Wilmington.
Stay.
Yeah.
Look, if my money is right here, 100%, I don't care who it is. It could be Mr. and Mrs. John McEnroe. My money is right here on the Dowlings. But Sean, thank you again, my friend. And hang on when I sign off. But I want to remind you guys, keep coming back into the Facebook group. We're updating the stuff that's going on or that we're trying to put together for alums in Vegas starting Thursday. There's going to be 1 or 2 events Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And of course, the game is Saturday. I know there's going to be a big tailgate. Ansley Battles is also putting together a party. They may have something at the hotel with the athletics department, but all that'll be coming together in the next several weeks. And I think that's it for right now. You guys just keep coming back into the group. Anchor down.
Anchor down.